Blessed Gérard lived at the transition from the 11th to the 12th century. He was a French Benedictine monk and the guest master of the Benedictine Monastery St. Latina in Jerusalem. Numerous pilgrims found accommodation there, who came to see the places where Jesus lived and died and rose from the dead. Because the journeys in those days were a great strain, most of the pilgrims arrived in Jerusalem exhausted or sick. Therefore, the guest house of St. Latina was more a hospital than a hotel, and it was in those days commonly known as the Hospital of Jerusalem. Apart from nursing the sick, they used to accommodate abandoned children, feed the starving, clothe the needy, and care for discharged prisoners. Blessed Gérard founded the Brotherhood of St. John of Jerusalem as a charitable organization to run the hospital. This community is the historical root of the Hospital Order of St. John, the oldest hospital order of the Church, which is today known as the Order of the Knights of Malta. Their rule and spirituality is based on the Benedictine principle of hospitality. The stranger is to be welcomed as Christ himself. Blessed Gérard and his brotherhood considered it an honor to serve the needy as they represent Christ. The members of the hospital order made the promise to be servants and slaves to our lords, the sick. On the other hand, the sick also benefited from the pastoral care of the hospital, which regarded itself not just a health institution, but a spiritual community. Altogether, the brothers on the one hand and the sick on the other hand are mutually representing Christ, making life in the community of the hospital a mutual encounter with the Lord, and therefore an event of salvation. The Brotherhood of Blessed Gérard wants to revitalize this spirit of the Brotherhood of St. John. It wants to give new life to the charisma of these origins and adopt it into the context of our present time and life situation. On the 28th of October 1992, the parish priest of Mandini, Father Gérard, Mr. and Mrs. Kolkworth from Mandini, and Dr. and Mrs. Tibete from Sundumbili founded the Brotherhood of Blessed Gérard as a private association of Christ's faithful. On the 5th of November 1992, the Bishop of Ushawi gave his go-ahead, and on the 20th of April 1993, he acknowledged the foundation as a church association through a formal decree. On the same day, the Sovereign Council of the Order of the Knights of Malta in Rome acknowledged the Brotherhood as a relief organization of the order. The motto of the Brotherhood of Blessed Gérard is the ancient motto of the Knights of Malta, Tuitio fidei et obsequium pauperum, protection of the faith and service to the poor. The Brotherhood of Blessed Gérard lives this motto by serving the poor as volunteers, by running charitable projects, no matter what creed, color of skin, or political affiliation the needy may have. The Brotherhood works in the Greater Mandini area, approximately 100 kilometers north of Durban. The population there is close to 100,000 inhabitants, made up of more or less 84% Zulu, 6% Coloureds, 6% Indians, and 4% white South Africans. A huge township called Sundumbili arose as a settlement for black people who worked for the big paper factory, Sappi. Its population increased during the past years because of the development of an immense industrial area named Isitebi, which offers about 23,000 job opportunities. The attraction to get pay for their work tempted many Zulu people to leave their socially intact communities. This meant breaking up their natural environment and homes. Because of the long distances, many of them could only return to their homes once or twice a year. However, this only paid off for very few, because the wages are so low. These are hardly sufficient to build even simple houses. Therefore, extensive slums arose around Isitebi and Sundumbili, where people live in very small and primitive huts, patched together with corrugated iron, planks, old sacks, pieces of car wrecks, and cardboard. In those informal settlements, there is neither running water nor boreholes. Electricity is a foreign word, and there is still no compulsory school attendance for black children in South Africa. Therefore, only very few managed to escape out of the vicious circle of poverty without help from outside. Insufficient education leads to unemployment. Unemployment results in hunger. Hunger makes people sick. Sickness creates poverty. And one who is poor cannot afford education. The Brotherhood of Blessed Gérard made it its job to break the chain of this vicious circle and to make a life of human dignity possible. Through our bursary fund, we fight insufficient education. Through our community development and household school, we fight unemployment. Through our feeding scheme, we fight hunger. Through health education and AIDS prevention, we fight sickness. Through our care centre and Poor Sick Fund, we fight poverty.
there is a big need here in our area. Once and foremost, there are people who are starving. There are small little children whose brains get damaged because they have not enough to eat, because they are malnourished. And so we said we must do something for them. And we started a feeding scheme for malnourished infants in Sundumbili.
Severe malnutrition in early childhood leads to permanent brain damage. Our founder member, the medical practitioner Dr. Tibete from Sundumbili, and his wife Nokatula, a qualified nursing sister, have initiated a project by which we look after malnourished children. In our feeding scheme, they counsel the mothers and teach them how to care for their children properly. They examine the children, weigh them, and keep exact records of their progress. Where poverty is the reason for malnutrition and breastfeeding is not sufficient or impossible, the Brotherhood of Blessed Gérard gives them milk, baby food, and protein-enriched porridge free of charge.
We also must do something for old people who are lonely at home, who are having their children, but they are at work and they sit at home also doing nothing, sitting in front of the TV the whole day or looking what they can do. And so we said we must make a kind of meetings where those people come together, where they meet and where they chat and where they talk, where they get some information and where they can be happy together. And so we started what we call twilight clubs. We have got one club here in Mandini and one club in Mangete, where the elderly people should get out of their isolation and meet together. And what I like so much in those twilight clubs, that is that those people now say, no, we don't want just to be helped, we want to be helpers ourselves. And they say they also want to do their own thing, and they want to do things with which they can help other people. And that is actually a very nice idea.
Because with catalytics you need somebody to move your body in the correct position.
Our active members, Mrs. Yvonne Renault, Mrs. Wendy Richardson, and Mrs. Margaret Hawthorne, invite all interested senior citizens twice a month to join them for a cup of tea and a chat, and a different activity each time. For example, a doctor gave a talk on geriatric ailments. A nurse taught kalinetics. They played games or did handicrafts. This serves to get the elderly out of their isolation and to find new friends.
I'm not going to let you do something unladylike. I want to. You won't be able to lay over here on the floor, imagining a bed. You want to live like that, please? Okay. Will you be able to see us here? Okay, we're having a little sleep and you wake up in the morning. Okay, the first thing you want to do normally is to stretch. So, let's stretch. And stretch, we pull our bodies and we stretch, we try and reach our feet to come to the bed, okay? And then you can feel it. And we stretch, we can't go like this because I found my headboards in the way, so I go up. And we stretch, pull a shoulder and pull a shoulder. Now that you can do as many as you like, just stay there. As many as you like. You can do that and you can sort of just do it until you feel your body has stretched out. Now, we can do a little bit of a tummy exercise. We lie down, come up and lie on your elbows. You push onto your elbows. Okay, just stay in your bed, lift your legs a little bit. And hold for 5 counts and down. And lift the legs a little bit. Can you feel your bottom?
Mrs. Marjorie Clark had to have open heart surgery, but the medical aid would not cover all the costs. The Brotherhood of Blessed Gérard raised the funds to pay for the difference. As she has now fully recovered, she has become an active member of the Brotherhood of Blessed Gérard herself and leads another club for senior citizens in Mangetti, together with her husband Gérard and her son Hein.
Who's got number 8?
There is another big need too. There are many people sitting at home who have nothing to do, who just wait until the day goes by. And then we say, no, we must help those people to be able to employ themselves, to do some work where they can make money with. And so we say, we will start a community development center, and that we did in Sundumbili too. We started this community development center by sewing classes, where people learn to make dresses, where they learn to sew, so that they can sell what they are producing and make a living for themselves, for their many children, and for their husbands, because sometimes one person has to support many people.
The old slogan, "Give a fish to a poor man, then he has enough for a day. Teach him fishing, then he will always have enough," is still true and expresses best what we are trying to achieve in our Community Development Center. It should give skills to the needy, to encourage self-employment, and thus to make them independent of charity. Our first step towards this is a sewing school. We employed Miss Lindiwe Mazaboko, a highly qualified sewing teacher, to give dressmaking courses. Starting as inexperienced beginners, the participants, after a while, are able to sew beautiful garments of high quality.
That can't be enough that we just teach them sewing. We also must teach people to care for their own health. Because if they are sick, if they cannot work because they are sick, it's also not good. And so we say, now we must start to do something that people keep themselves healthy. And what we are going to do that is to make courses in basic health care. And when first and foremost there will be a program to tell people how dangerous a sickness is which is called AIDS and which is spreading around our area in a terrible way. A doctor from Gwelezani Hospital told me it's around about 10% of the population who are carrying germs. It's actually a virus in themselves who causes that sickness. It takes some 10 years to develop, but then they all die. And so we must do something that people don't get sick with this sickness which we call AIDS. And so what we are going to do in this community development center is to give courses to tell the people how to avoid that terrible sickness which kills so many people.
Our Community Development Centre will soon become involved in the AIDS prevention program, which Dr. Tibeti initiated in the area, by giving talks and courses on how to prevent the spread of this deadly disease.
There is another need too. There are so many people who can't get a job. They can't get work because they haven't got the skills, because they have no training to do work. And many people we know look for work in a household, but they don't get a job because they don't know how to do those and how to run those modern things in those modern households of ours in our days. And so we say we must help there, that people can get employment, or that people who have got employment already can do their jobs better, and so improve on their own lives.
No, we said egg with...
Our Vice President, Mrs. Claire Kalkworth, put the idea into action to organize a basic training for domestic helpers. Many people coming from a rural environment are not familiar with modern household appliances and procedures. For them, it is very difficult to find work.
Oatmeal, that's right. And this is dog food,
Eggs, fried eggs.
Fried.
The iron's cold.
Mrs. Yvonne Renner took the challenge as the principal of our domestic training school to introduce and train interested people theoretically and practically in conversational English, the safe use of electricity and appliances, cooking, ironing, and personal hygiene. She is helped by a group of volunteers, including our active members, Mrs. Margaret Hawthorne, Mrs. Madge McDermott, Mrs. Joyce Buss, as well as Mrs. Wendy Richardson. What the students have learnt, they must prove in a final examination to obtain their certificate. Mrs. Umbagazi, who took part in the first of the courses, said,
Reverend Father, Mrs. Raymond, Mrs.
Kalkworth.
I would like to say a few words on behalf of the work which has been done. I think I should thank everybody for what he or she has contributed towards us. When I came here the first day, I asked myself, why did I leave my home and come here when there are no people who are only three only. The first day we were only two. I said I'm just wasting my time. But now I have learned a lot. I don't test myself by coming here. But to you it was a blessing because you could afford to teach us when we knew nothing. So I say, may God bless you all. Thank you.
Who are being sent home from hospital but cannot be helped by their families. And so we say we try to build a kind of a home or hospice where those people can be cared for.
Maria, from outside Sundumbili, died in summer 1992 from neglect. She was not acutely sick, so she had no place in hospital, but her relatives, two frail old women, could not cope with nursing her. She died from malnutrition and bed sores. Cases like Maria's are no exception. The Brotherhood of Blessed Gérard therefore wants to erect a care centre for needy sick people who cannot be nursed in hospital, but cannot be cared for in their homes either. The care centre will have a double role At first, to enable relatives to do home nursing by training them in basic health care and nursing. And secondly, to be an extended home for those who would otherwise be neglected.
And then we say, well, there are many other needs in our area too. For example, there are people who are so poor that they can't pay for the education of their children. And so we say, the Brotherhood say, we try to raise funds that we can help people who can't pay for the education of their children. Because I think it's a key for the good future of South Africa, that we have good education for everybody.
Education is a key to a good future of every society, but many cannot afford its costs. That is why we have a bursary fund to help poor people to get a proper education. In many more cases we help when people are in need. For example, to give food to starving families, to give clothing to the poor, to give building material to needy people whose huts have burnt down, or just to counsel and give advice to those who have no solution to so many different problems. The Brotherhood of Blessed Gérard helps and wants to help in future, but every organization can only fulfill its aim if there are members who do the work and if there are funds to pay for it. This is why we appeal to all of you. Help us to help by your prayers, that God may bless our service and those we serve. Help us to help by a donation towards our charity work. Help us to help by joining us as an active member if you want to serve as a volunteer, as a donor if you want to support us financially on a regular basis, as a spiritual supporter if you want to help us with your prayers regularly. We help as far as possible. Join us